Yeah, there are some documents which have not been circulated. It has nothing to do with you, Daniel. So don't you worry, I can see you trying to frisk your pockets. It has nothing to do with you. It's actually our secretariat, some documents. So it will take about yeah, but in the absence of those documents, I want to invite you. I'll give you 10 minutes. 10 minutes. You introduce yourself to the committee. Tell us who you are, where you went to school, what you have been doing to yourself, and any other information which you'll find relevant to this vetting exercise, or for that matter, National Land Commission. You may proceed. 10 minutes exact.
Yeah, my name is Daniel Muriithi.
Move closer to the mic.
I'm closest. My name is Daniel Muriithi. I come from Meru County. I was born in a place called Nkobo around 1979 from a young mother who got me when she was 18. So I was raised by my grandparents. She had to go back to school. I went to school, a primary school called Kadela Primary School in 1986. And because of the conditions then, from a single mother who's gotten me out of Wendrock, the conditions were not very good for me to be in a school in the village. My grandmother took me into a boarding school called Wesley Boarding School, which was like 10 kilometers away from my home. That was in 1990, in class 5. So I started boarding school life when I was pretty young, in class 5. I completed in 1993 and went to still a secondary school in Meru County called Kibirisha Boys. I cleared in 1997, that is Form 4. I was admitted to do a bachelor's degree in education, which I was not very happy, because I think around the 1990, when there was clamor for multipartyism, I was very enraged when I saw the likes of Getobu Imanyala, Keraito Moroge agitating for democracy. Well, I didn't know what a lawyer was then, but I thought they were doing a good thing. So I had put it in my mind that I wanted to be a lawyer. So when I came to Nairobi, of course, after declining the Bachelor of Education, an uncle of mine took me to Kenya School of Professional Studies. By then, of course, lack of knowledge, we didn't know there was parallel program. So I did a diploma in law. And when I was about to finish, then that's when we realized there was a degree offered in law, but in the evening classes, which I was able to join in 2000. After I, of course, completed the diploma. That's why it's also part of my certificates. I went for evening classes while working through law firms, and I was able to complete in 2007. From there, because I was still working from around 2000 as a legal assistant, I worked a bit for IBC when there were polls. I also worked as a legal assistant in 3 law firms, Kyogora Mutai and Muriungi and Company Advocates. At that time is when, of course, because I was doing a lot of clerical work in the lands registry, the courts, that's how I got to be picked by Amenasil, still to do legal work as a clerk. Little did he know that I was still in the university trying to do a degree in law. And then when I graduated, he was gracious enough to pay for my Kenya School of Law, and again offer me employment as an advocate in his firm from 2009. I was in his firm and lost all the way to the end of legal conveyancing and property departments, where I had 6 people, 6 advocates below me and assistants. I worked very well in the farm, and again, in his gracious way, he also lets people flourish. He let us go and form a law firm called Sheikh & Company, where I was also the managing partner of that firm until 2020, sorry. And then from 2020, I formed Daniel and Kenneth Advocates, where I am the advocate currently. Well, around the same time, I was running Sheikh & Company in 2015, and enrolled for a master's degree in science. Lawyers only want to do sciences, but I defined the horns. I did a master's degree in environmental management and planning. This is to end my understanding and deeper understanding of the law, because I have all along practiced property law and conveyancing. So I got a master's in environmental planning and management, which led to a certification with the National Environmental Management and Coordination. This is NEMA. I became an environmental impact assessment associate expert, so I'm able to do environmental impact assessments. And within the same time also, I was able to get a certification from the Kenya Institute of Industrial Property, where I am a patent agent. So all this time, I'm in the property industry. I've practiced in the courts, in the ELC courts, and I've also done many projects in terms of a project from inception all the way the contracting to the sale of either it's the units or just a normal conveyancing transaction where it's a buy and sell, and even where there is syndicated transactions like joint ventures and all. This is the area that I've been able to flourish and do a lot of work for the last, this is now 17 years, Honorable Chairman.
Thank you, Daniel, for the introduction and the information that you have shared with us. I'll now open the floor so that the members can field questions. And honorable members, it's your turn. Honorable Paul Katana.
Thank you, Chair. Mr. Daniel, the nominee, thank you for your elaborate statement. In your statement and in your presentation, you are a lawyer by profession, and you have been involved with the land transactions involving billions of shillings through conveyance. Now, if this committee approves you to be one of the commissioners in NLC, is your law firm still active? And would you use your position to continue with your business in land transaction? Because NLC deals with a lot of land transactions through other agencies like Kenya, Kura, Kera. Has your company been involved, or you'll use your company, now that you'll be a chair, to use your position to continue with land transactions? Thank you.
Honorable Dr. Nyamai.
Thank you, Chairman. I would like to ask the nominee that you are aware that you deal with banks and huge institutions dealing with multi-billion businesses. And I would like to give you examples. You have a 14 billion aviation security, a matter that you have interest in, 1.1 billion winery joint venture that you're also working on. You're also dealing with a mega project which deals with housing. And you know, when you mention housing, you're mentioning land of over 4,000 units. And you are also involved in being a kind of go-between for companies that are dealing with like debt collection for over 9 billion shillings. And now you're coming into a sector where the same institutions may appear dealing with multi-billion businesses. And I would like to give you examples. You have a 14 billion aviation security, a matter that you have interest in, 1.1 billion winery joint venture that you're also working on. You're also dealing with a mega project which deals with housing. And you know, when you mention housing, you're mentioning land of over 4,000 units. And you are also involved in being a kind of go-between for companies that are dealing with like debt collection for over 9 billion shillings. And now you're coming into a sector where the same institutions may appear. How will you deal with this as a commissioner? My second question, Chair, is concerns your clients. And some of your clients include banks, National Bank, Gulf of Africa, CDN Bank, Housing Finance. These are the people that you deal with every day. You can maybe share differently if that's not what you do. But the preparations of this committee noted that you are quite involved with banks. And these banks also have dealings with National Land Commission. How will you deal with what you do every day as a businessman and what you'll be doing as a commissioner in National Land Commission? Thank you, Chairman.
The last one on that set, Honorable Engineer, Zambia.
Thank you, Chair. The expertise, the lawyer, the advocate, has said that he has a lot of expertise in conveyancing, environmental law, and procurement. In that case, you must have come across systems where they work or they fail. And in this case, based on your inside experience, what are the top 3 regulated failures, loopholes in Kenya land sector that you believe the National Land Commission must address in case you are approved? And will you commit to using your insider knowledge to close those loopholes, even if they have benefited your former clients in the past?
You respond to those ones first. Bwana Daniel.
Okay, thank you, Honorable Chairman, for those questions. I'll start with Honorable Paul Katana. I run a law firm called Daniel and Kenneth Advocates. If vetted successfully by this committee, one of the first things I'm going to do when I'm sworn in is to resign from the firm. And once I resign from the firm, matters that have been entrusted to me by clients, because legal services, other than it being given to the firm, it is personal to the advocate dealing with it. I will approach all my clients and I tell them, I have gotten this higher calling of public office and now I'm a state officer, and I would want them to either retain the matter in the firm or give those matters to advocates of their choice. Just to put it into context, this is a firm that has 11 advocates and a staff of 25. So if the matters are left there, they will be able to be handled. Or if the client chooses to give the matters to any other advocate, we will be able to release that matter and be handled by that advocate, so that I don't controvert or contradict my law as a commissioner and also as an advocate who has been in active practice. So therefore, I will not be able to transact personal business from the law firm. I'll only be able to have fidelity to the Constitution and the law and serve as an NLC member, because that's what the Constitution tells me to do, that this is a full-time commission, and I'm not able to take any other active law or any other business outside the commission. Honorable Nyamai, banks and huge institutions, this is true. Yeah, we are in panels of several banks, National Bank, like you mentioned, Sindian, and a number of others, possibly around 7. These banks have hired the firm as a firm and not myself. Of course, my CV might have enriched the firm in terms of giving the firm business, but I will be able to communicate to them, and the firm will be able to say that this partner has left the employment of the firm, and therefore the firm will continue with those matters as is, or if these clients would be desirous to send these matters to other firms, if my expertise was so unique that they cannot get it in the firm, then they won't be able to take those matters without a push and pull as to my new law. Of course, debt collection is the same thing. You are often work to collect, and this is for some government institutions where pension is supposed to be limited and has not been limited. This is what we are doing. That's why it's a huge figure, because it involves the actual statutory deduction, interest over the years, and interest is always compounded when it's not paid. So some of these institutions will always come and ask for some sort of concessions. But on this also, I will again be able to approach these institutions, and I will tell them I am leaving, so that they will be able to either continue engaging the firm or take those matters to other firms that they feel have the competence to handle the matters in my absence. Then Honorable Zambia, I have worked out here, yes, and I've seen so many gaps and loopholes in the other side, because there is a saying and a joke that goes on this side of, we call it the bar, where the lawyers say all matters by NLC, you can be sure going to win because they are either not defendant, or when they are defendant, there is a very weak defense. So therefore, the first regulatory item I would address is to ensure that we firm up, because the law is there, but we make sure that we enrich the legal department. I have looked from their reports that they have around 30 lawyers or so, and 30 lawyers is a big number to handle matters. The issue is whether they are well supervised, whether they are automated, whether when matters are filed, they get to know the matters have been filed, whether service has been done, and therefore automation will equip these lawyers in the commission to be very spot on in terms of defending these matters. Then the other regulatory failure, which has been addressed even in the exit report of the outgoing commission, they have tried to show a small disconnect between the commission and the parliament, the ministry, where there is a bit of lack of either information or duplication of laws, or where one thinks they have a law which the other one thinks they don't. So therefore, there's a bit of, in the exit report, they are looking to the amendment of the Land Act a little bit to align those laws. But what I know is that from the National Land Commission Act, Section 17, it calls for cooperation and consultation. Therefore, it is entrenched in law that even without the amendment, we should be able to have a bit of collegiality and cooperation and consultation with the ministry to make sure that no one is taking a firm position from the other. Then the other one is automation. This has been done. There is the public information system, public land information management system, by the National Land Commission, and there's a National Information Land Management System by the Ministry of Lands. I think from where I sit, we need to find a way to have these two systems working so that hand to hand, where the member of public sits, they are able to know that they are able to glance and know this is public land, this is private land, other than both institutions having their own systems, which sometimes members of the public may not be able to know there are two systems. I think those would be some of the regulatory frameworks I would think would enrich this commission. And therefore, the last one you asked about the insider knowledge that I have, yes. Most of the things that we know from practice that cut across possibly titles that are not okay and irregular occasions, I will endeavor to use this knowledge to enrich the commission in such a way that we have programs and systems in place that will address these things before even they happen. Because from the bar where I sit in private practice, you have your client's title and you want it upheld. But at this point now, it's just to clean up documents, even introduce modern technology to be able to arrest issuance of an irregular document and make us go into too much litigation when somebody is out there with an irregular document. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Daniel. The other set of questions, start with Honorable Gitari, then Dr. Gideon, and then Joses.
Thank you, Chair. I think as we progress, normally here, the higher you go, the cooler it becomes, and I think that's how we are going. Muriithi is doing a nice job. Chair, I would like the nominee to tell us your expertise make you very exceptional as a commissioner, or let it make you deeply conflicted one. The difference lies in your integrity and your awareness. What I'm asking is there anything in your extensive private practice, any transaction, any client, any advice you have given that could be used to question your impartiality if you are confirmed? And are you willing to praise the record today, your commitment that the public interest will always, without exception, prevail over any other form of client relationship or commercial instincts? On the same, having practiced in the conveyancing industry for a long time, I would like to hear your comments on the failures and successes on the Addis platform. Are we achieving anything, or are we stagnant, or where are we?
Honorable Chanda.
Thank you, Chair. Two questions, but fairly related. Whether you've had an experience with the claims or awards against public bodies in your practice. What has been the experience like? If it is no, what do you generally think or get to know about? Because I'm connecting this with the second question where you alluded about claims against NLC. And I can tell you NLC has claims that are close to 1 billion shillings that have not been paid over a period of time. And with that information, what is it that you are able to do, or what you can do for purposes of limiting this, including those that are existing? How do you go about handling the 1 billion pending bill to lawyers, not to anybody else, but this is to lawyers?
Honorable Lele Mengit.
Thank you, Chair. On a light note, Chair, I don't know if Mr. Murungi is related to the clerk of the National Assembly. it resembles. Now, now to a more serious question. Now, Mr. Muriithi, you do a conveyance. You do conveyance. You make money through deals, land deals, to be specific. And now you are entering into to protect public land as a regulator. Have you ever declined a client or a deal on ethical grounds? And if it's possible, you can give example. Thank you, Honorable Chair.
Honorable Irene.
Okay. Irene, MP Bahati has stated. My question goes to our nominee. You have been a private advocate, and of course, your duty is to protect your client. Here now, your duty is to protect the public interest. Have you ever advised your client in your private practice on how to structure a transaction to avoid regulatory requirement or to minimize the impact of any land law? If so, how are you going to reconcile that with your new duty?
Honorable Robbie, then after that, Honorable Decol.
Thank you, Chair. Mr. Muriithi, why are you interested to join this National Land Commission? And yet we can see you have big offices. Yeah, where you are busy doing business. Why are you interested to this?
Honorable Major.
Thank you, Chair. Wakili, you alluded to the fact that there are a lot of gaps in your line of duty in terms of land issues between National Land Commission and the Department and the Ministry of Lands and Fiscal Planning. Are there areas in law that you are thinking maybe you will bring to this committee as a commissioner of the Lands Commission so that you seek some amendments in the law itself, that you have discovered the conflicts and the overlaps between the Ministry of Lands and the Land Commission? Secondly, as mentioned by my colleague here, there are a lot of cases that were lost by National Land Commission in courts to the tune maybe around, I think in the documents we have is up to about 2.7 billion shillings pending bills, and majority of that money is for lawyers. And you just confirmed that out there you are sure that if the case is between Lands Commission and yourself, you are winning this case. Maybe also if you could tell us whether you have a pending bill with the National Land Commission, and whether in the future, if you occupy this office or you get the opportunity to be a commissioner, whether you will tell your colleagues in the legal industry that there is a new sheriff in town, that there will be no more losses of cases. And if the lawyers with National Land Commission, whether they are employed by National Land Commission, or you can also outsource, so that we don't have this kind of laxity in losing cases. Thank you.
Lastly, Madam Vice Chair.
Thank you, Chair. Mr. Daniel, from your CV, you have a very impressive CV. And the report we have here indicates that you are a billionaire in terms of the deals you make. So my question is about what motivates you to go to National Lands Commission, whereby you're going to survive on a monthly income and you're going to regulate, lands in favor of the public and many other issues. You look like someone who have made it in life in terms of the projects and the deals you have made. Thank you.
So, nominee, you can respond to those ones.
Honorable Chair, I will attempt to respond to these questions from Honorable Gitali. Thank you for noting my expertise. You sought to know.
Don't repeat the question. Just
okay. Whether I will be impartial in public interest in this, I will make sure that I will be able to strike a difference between the Daniel Muriithi in private practice, who has been agitating for his clients' rights, and I will be able to take the public interest mantle, be the public trustee, uphold the Constitution, be able to take all the tenets that are articulated in Article 10 of our Constitution, and make sure that this institution gets its continued growing, because it already has growing, so it's just to advance what is already there. Then comments on failures and successes of Adisasa. Adisasa, when it came, it had a bit of teething problems. In fact, to be very candid, the people who opposed it most were the lawyers, the valuers, and the planners, because it was meant to bring sanity in a confused industry where people would do subdivisions and they are not noted in any of the registers at the Survey of Kenya, where lawyers would pay stamp duty, but even KRA does not have sight of it. There is a lot of success. All these things have been streamlined. Everyone transacting, at least in Nairobi, part of Kiambu, and now going to Machakos, Adisasa has been very successful. Anyone who has run as an Adisasa ID, whether an individual or corporate, and you are able to transact with your ID, and if it is from valuation, transfer, all these matters are done through Adisasa. Even subdivisions where now we have sectional titles of apartments, all this is on Adisasa. It has largely succeeded, and I think we needed this way earlier, but that has been able to close the gap that we have. It has failures, of course. It has not been able to reach, it is not countrywide. It's confined on a pilot project in Nairobi, Kiambu, and now Mombasa, partly now going to Machakos. The other failures that we could have is literacy. Not everybody is very literate. So some of these people, their accounts end up being operated by people who are a bit computer literate. Therefore, again, introducing an element of fraud. If somebody is very owned, and some of these properties in Nairobi, Patre, Parklands, Isli, and Kilimani, Kirereshwa, are owned by people who are a bit aged, who are not computer literate. So there is a risk of people who are using those accounts on their behalf and doing something fraudulent. And the way it could be improved, possibly try to include a fingerprint or a thumbprint access to that account for the hinged. That will really work, because at that point, unless somebody now is under duress and a gun is held on their neck, then they will not claim that that their account was used by somebody fraudulently. Then the next question, whether I've had claims on public bodies. As a firm, we don't have any pending bill with the National Land Commission. We've been able to act for clients who are acquiring entities, and therefore that acquisition has to be done through the National Land Commission. But we have not been in the panel of National Land Commission. We have no pending bill there. And now, if approved by this committee, I will ensure the firm of Daniel and Kenneth Advocates is not enlisted as a service provider for the National Land Commission, even despite my resignation from the firm. What I can do to limit claim, I know the pending bills from the advocates to the tune of $1 billion shillings. There is a room to have a conversation with these advocates if at all they have not taxed their bills. And really what happens is if you've not paid an advocate for some time, they go back to court for court to reaffirm that what they have charged you is what is possibly due. So if there are some who have taxed, then we could have a conversation with them. The others who might be going to the route of taxing their bill, we could still have a conversation with them not to go that route and have some sort of an arrangement, because a debt that is due and owing can be paid with, within a framework on an arrangement of payment. That would be what would come straight on my hand on how to handle these bills. Honorable Emengit, I have no relationship with the clerk of the National Assembly, but I will not want to brief for my father. You've heard what I've said about my past. I was born by a single mother, and from my documentation, you see my birth certificate, there's no entry of my father. So again, there is a possibility. Yeah. Then there is money, whether I've declined money from a client who has brought an ethical deal. Yeah, this happens every day in law firms. Sometimes you find somebody working in your chambers with a title that even at a glance, because from experience, even without a search, sometimes you're able to look at a title and say, there are too many things that don't hand up here. So the first step is to do a search, yourself as the lawyer on record, and then if it's not okay, you tell them sorry. I remember some years back, without mentioning the firm and the names, there's somebody who walked into my office with a file for the Ministry of Lands. Honorable Gitali will know what the PASO file is. Somebody walked with a PASO file, which is a security document for the Ministry of Lands, and said, I have all the documents for the ministry, so from our hand is to just make the documents to our liking because we have everything. And I was employed, not that I thought this would really change my life, but I told them, walk out of my office. And I walked to my employer and said, this is what your friends have done. And he was like, no, I don't approve of it. And they called the client, and they admonished them, and that is the last time we saw of that client in our office. So I have under situation, and that was life-changing. I was just 3 years in practice, and the monies being mentioned were too much. Honorable Robbie, I am interested in joining this big office because I have wanted to serve the people from a very young age. You've heard my history. When I was in the lower classes, class 5, class 6, that's when there was agitation for multipartyism, when people are fighting for human rights. I felt I needed to be in that space. When I came to practice, I was not able to get the opportunity to be a human rights lawyer, but now with this, I'm able to feel I'm in that space because there is historical land injustices, there is review of grants and dispositions in land, which goes all the way up to 1895. So I feel I'm in a space, other than the joy you get when you have money from legal fees, that you have an inner satisfaction that you've helped the community and your country, and you've served diligently without putting money as the pacifier or your interest. Honorable Ndeko, areas that I would seek amendment, I have alluded to this. The Rand Act, from the exit report I have seen from the previous commission, they have alluded to a few gaps where the ministry feels it is their mandate to do, to possibly allocate land, run with all the processes that are there. I know the National Land Commission assesses tax in land when they are doing allotments. They assess the stand premium, and this money is collected and paid to the ministry. So this is where you do all the preparatory works and even tell somebody how much they are supposed to pay, but you don't receive. So we will be coming here possibly if the commission is in agreement to make NLC an entity that can receive and receipt. I think the accountants have better ones for that, so that this money is received by the commission and possibly expended or caters for the deficit of the budget of the commission. Then telling the lawyers whether there is a new sheriff in town, for sure they know. I know that we are 3 of us here. I think the first thing is to, like I alluded to, is to have a very conducive approach to those pending bills. Those that are taxed, we'll be able to know how to handle them. Those that are not taxed, we know how to, because you see, a bill that is pending can always be discounted. I know we have the advocates' remuneration order that guides us, but it only gives the lower scale. It doesn't give the upper scale. And some of these fee notes, I believe, are in the upper scale. So we would actually ask them to bring them down to the scale that is prescribed by the advocates' remuneration order. And again, to confirm, I don't have a pending bill with NLC. And then there is also the lawyers who are employed by NLC, vis-a-vis lawyers who are hired by the commission to give legal service. I think, and a recent decision has alluded to the fact that you can't have a full expertise in a government agency, but you need to look at it and assess the need for it. There are 33 lawyers or so in this commission. I think and I have earned there are 9,000 cases that are pending in the commission. Some of them might be simple matters, other than they are spread across the country in the 47 counties as provided by the NLC Act that the commission needs to have presence in the 47 counties. It is just a matter of organizing these matters. And you have 33 lawyers even working on 100 cases, and they don't know which one is coming tomorrow, which one do we need to file documents, which one is ready for hearing. Just taking all those cases, putting them in a platform that is IT-based, and mapping them out in terms of which one is due for hearing, which one is due for compliance. I think these 33 lawyers are able to handle these matters, and now we can also assess and do a report and have the need for these other external lawyers for very complex matters and matters that the 33 lawyers are not able to handle. Vice Chairperson, Honorable Joe, why NLC? And they said I'm a billionaire. I doubt I am a billionaire, but amen to that. Now, I have alluded to this and said I've always felt this higher calling. In fact, when I did my master's, I did a report and titled it Enforcement Control in Machakos County, where I felt we have enough laws. We have everything we require, but we have all these institutions spread all over. You have NEMA issuing its license from their offices. You have the county issuing an approval. I felt that we need to bring these institutions together in such a way. I know there is a multi-agency group that handles, but mostly handles disasters. The approval process of all these issues have not been done well. So I felt even after giving that report, which was 2015, and I remember I took it to Honorable the Governor of Machakos, Mutua, to make sure that they consume it. I felt this has crept into Nairobi, and my feeling is that enforcement of development control is an item that I need to run with, whether I've done it on this side, but now on the public sector I need to bring my knowledge there and reach it, and I'll be happy as a Kenyan if we have all these controls and we are not stuck in traffic when it rains. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I think we are coming to the tail end of this session. I'll ask one or two questions. Irene, you have something?
Chair, I don't think he answered my question.
Sorry, Honorable Eileen, I might have. Let me see whether I wrote it.
You've seen it?
Possibly she couldn't, I couldn't address it direct. Sorry for that, my apologies.
Yes, I asked you a question. As a private advocate, your duty lies to your client. Here, your duty now as a commissioner lies to the public interest. Have you ever advised your client on how to structure a transaction to avoid regulatory requirement or to minimize the impact of land law? And if so, how are you going to reconcile that with your new duty?
Okay, possibly I can take that one, and my apologies again for skipping it. We've always, and when clients walk into our offices, for sure they have no clue of what they want in terms of execution, but they have a problem in their hands. Just to put it into context and to give an example, husband and wife walks into my office, and the husband says, I want to transfer my property to my wife. A normal transaction will take a transfer, they pay stamp duty, evaluation is done. But again, when you look at the Stamp Duty Act, there is a provision for exemption of stamp duty and the consideration is love and affection. I'll be able to tell you, yes, this is how the transaction goes, but you have a bit of reprieve here. You are not going to pay stamp duty. Let me get your marriage certificate, and I run you the process of possibly how not to pay the stamp duty, but it's provided for in law. So that we've been able to structure, and where we have all these transactions where you have to navigate through myriad of laws to see which suits your client. That we've done not to avoid, but to work with the laws and the systems that are in place to make sure that we give the desired outcome. Now, as a public trustee, being a state officer, it is to ensure that everybody follows the law. I possibly...
Point of order, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, please, Honorable Munya.
Muriithi, you should actually say if you are appointed, because you are not yet appointed.
My apologies. Please, my apologies for that. Right. My apologies for that. If appointed, and I'm very sorry. My apology again. Yeah, if appointed, I will be able to be a public trustee. I know the high demands by the Constitution, by the National Land Commission Act, Leadership and Integrity Act, and also the conflict that I might have if such things come to my desk. Otherwise, I will uphold the law and make sure that I strictly follow the law in these matters. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. I think I just ask 1, 2, 3 questions. Have you ever been charged or convicted?
No.
Have you been adversely mentioned in any report of Parliament?
No.
Do you hold dual citizenship?
No.
What is your net worth?
Yeah.
They call you a billionaire. You said you're not very sure whether you have hit the mark.
Yes.
So what's your net worth?
Yeah, I've listed many places I have interest, but to sum it up, my net worth is 300 million.
What are your current or anticipated sources of income?
Yeah, I have 2 sources of income, possibly current and an ongoing. I have some interest in an airline, so that is an interest. It's through shareholding, and then the other interest I could have is unpaid bills from the law firm, which I think I'm entitled to because they were billed and work done, possibly before I get this confirmation. Thank you.
Okay, honorable members, I think we have come to the end of the session. I'll give you a minute, only a minute. You just make your last remarks. If there's anything you want to tell the members of the committee, it's now your opportunity to do that. Just 1 or 2 minutes.
Yeah, thank you so much for that opportunity. I will thank the committee for their dedication in this process. One notable item that this committee has delivered is the amendment of the National Land Commission Act, Section 15 and 16, on historical injustices. This is one item that we need to learn with now that it was the Act was amended in 2025, and the review of grants and dispositions of titles, taking it back again to the colonial times. Those are areas that are dicey. I believe the members of the commission and guided by the chairman, if given this opportunity, we will be able to navigate through and make sure that we handle them to the best expectation of the Kenyans. Also, the other item is the Conflict of Interest Act, which was also passed by the current House. It gives us guidance on where not to step on and on how to do things in the event that we feel we are conflicted. This time there is a law that is governing that process, so that it's not very amorphous and subject to a court process. Otherwise, thank you so much for this opportunity, and I will be happy to get this position if you vet me successfully.
Thank you so much. We really want to wish you the very best. We are going to process the report based on the engagement we've had, and then it will be subjected to the House for approval or rejection. So that's the honors of the entire assembly. But we really want to wish you the very best. I think we've had a very good engagement, so you are discharged.
Thank you so much, Honorable Chair and members. Thank you.
Thank you. You'll take your documents and make sure they're all together. You don't lose a piece of it. So now remembers that's now the third person. We have a decision to make, whether we should proceed or we break for lunch. For those who are fasting, they are saying,
Chair, we can.
Okay.
Chair,
we can break for lunch.
Wanataka kuswali, alafu we can still proceed
So
up
I
to
think
7 p.m.
We can, no, Simu will just agree on the time. Right now it's 2 actually. So we can break for 30 minutes or 45 minutes if you so wish. 30 minutes, so we'll be back by 2:30. Okay? Thank you so much.